Legal analyst Elton Hart joins us now via video link to unpack developments in this particular case. Elton, thank you so much for your time. So Cholota says, through her lawyers, of course, that she finds it unfair that she's still behind bars, given the fact that none of her co-accused, including her former boss, Ace Magashule, spent time in jail. I would imagine it's because of the circumstances behind her arrests, which are vastly different given the extradition. Just give us your thoughts on her first appearance and just some of the utterances made in her submission.
No, indeed, if one looks at how she was brought before the court this morning, it's totally different from her 17 other co-accused in this matter, or 16 co-accused in this matter. So one needs to not lose sight, because they had to actually bring an extradition application to actually bring her back from the United States of United States of America back to South Africa. So she did not voluntarily. We might argue, or a person might argue to say that, but the other accused did also not voluntarily hand them over. Some I think like the former premier actually went to the police station to hand him over. So that is maybe where the state is with opposing the application. But I also think the state, in the reasons they advanced, it was very flimsy for me to say how they're opposing the bail application. At least they need to give some sort of, they just said they're opposing the bail application, and for what it's worth, the investigating officer was in court. He is the one that needs to testify as to why he opposes. Why can't he just give a viva voce evidence to say why they could have led him as a witness in this case? But obviously I know that, but obviously one looks at the circumstances as how she was brought before court. That plays a role, and I think one day postponement is sort of half a fair reflection of what is currently happening.
I mean, even before, just looking at the arguments from her for legal team as an example, even before she was extradited back in the country, her lawyers seem to think that the only reason she's facing as many charges is because she would not help the state with their case, and not because the state actually has strong charges against her. When you look at just some of the her charges, what do you think the game plan is here from the state's side?
No, I think back when the Zondo Commission was sitting, she gave evidence, and the state thought, okay, yeah, we've got this sniping tool that we can actually use against the other 16 accused in this matter to actually charge them and actually successfully prosecute them. And when Ms. Cholota now decided, listen, yeah, I'm not going to testify on behalf of the state, which is her constitutional right to say, I don't want to, then they decided, okay, let's try and maybe strong arm her. And she was arrested back in April 2024 already, and maybe they thought maybe by arresting her and keeping her so long in custody with the extradition process might soften her, and maybe she might then be willing and open to have a discussion to become a 204 witness, where she will testify open and honestly, incriminating herself, but also incriminating the 16 other accused. And based on that, they can then have some sort of evidence to actually prosecute these guys. Now, her backtracking is sort of half a blow to the state's case, the strength of the state's case, and the evidence that they can use, because now they will not have, and them was not wise for them to actually charge her also, because now the information that she possesses, she's just going to sort of have not tender that information forward, and then they have to now like come with the records of the Zondo Commission, but that is open now for scrutiny.
I mein, when we look at, just the developments in the United States, she was arrested in April, of course. The state, the case, at least the magistrate in that court case in the US found that, there was sufficient evidence to hold her, from April until her arrest, of course, and her extradition to South Africa. To what extent does that bear, bearing into this particular case, given the fact that, South Africa has relationships with the US in terms of extradition laws, but also the fact that she was held behind bars for that long time in the US?
Yeah, obviously one looks at, for the longest time, she was deprived of her right to actually sort of have freedom of movement and liberties. And the mere fact that there was a case made out for extradition doesn't say that that case even holds water in South African law, because the test is different. Okay. It's beyond reasonable doubt. There they sort of have, is there sort of have evidence that the state can advance, and you don't know what evidence the state produced to the state attorney in America to actually say to them, listen, yeah, this is the charges we're trying to prefer against this accused is in your territory, and based on the extradition treaty between these two countries, it's an extraditable offense or offenses. And I think that is the only thing. There was no time that maybe she even had maybe an attorney on that side actually looking at this extradition request and actually looking at, is it even in the interest of justice that she be extradited to South Africa? We don't know, because I haven't seen anything that an attorney that was representing her in United States. So you don't know how the state bolstered that application to actually bring her back to South Africa, and which of that evidence is actually true that can stand the test of time. Because obviously with evidence, it's a he said, she said story, and we don't know how much that evidence was tested in the extradition hearing. As you know, with extradition, South Africa doesn't have a great record at this point in time. So I don't know what was said by our NPA, our prosecuting authorities and law enforcement agencies to the United States to say, this is what we have against this person, and hence you should give us this request. So that is where it is for me at this point in time.
All right, fair enough. So Elton, tomorrow she will be appearing in court again for her bail application. One would presume that the state then will be ready. What are her prospects?
No, I think the thing is, like, when one looks at the bail application, one needs to be very, very sort of have within the parameters of section 60 subsection 4A to E, and then you read it with subsection 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And the state must prove that she's a flight risk, she will get out of the country, she will endanger witnesses, she will not interfere with witnesses. And that's more or less where a bail application should not be seen in the light of a punitive action. A bail application will just see, will she stand her trial so that her matter be finalized. And I know if there's already a notice, she won't be able to leave the borders of the country. If she leaves the borders of the country, then it means that there's something more problematic to our system of border management. But I don't think, and that's where the state should oppose a bail application on. They should not come and say, this is the type of charges. That is for the trial court to decide. So tomorrow we should see the state coming out and saying why they think that she would not stand her trial, and why they think maybe that she might defeat the ends of justice or interfere with witnesses, and on that basis oppose it. And for me, I think there is a strong chance, and her chances of getting bail should be stronger. And she's in a favorable position, and especially if she hasn't been convicted of any previous offenses. And I think that's where the argument should be confined, and not now using this extradition thing as the overriding. I know the state will use it, but I think there's counter arguments that the defense can use for the extradition, because there's conditions set on these types of situations.
Elton, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Elton Hart is a legal analyst, of course. This is in connection with Moroadi Cholota's case. She's back in court for a bail application tomorrow at the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court. We'll continue then to give you an update in terms of those developments.